Welcome, and thank you so much for joining in for today's class. We're going to focus on a little bit of lower back and glute releasing if you have any soreness or stiffness there. So we can go ahead and get started on our back, getting comfortable lying down. And if you need to modify in any way, please feel free to do so. You can have your knees bent, you can have your legs straight. Just make sure you feel a connection to the ground, you feel relaxed, and can find stillness in your body. When you feel ready, let's close the eyes. Just taking these first few moments to settle into your body. Really feel that connection to the earth through your head, shoulders, through your back, all the way down the spine towards your hips and lower back. And the backs of the knees or the feet firmly planted down. Bringing awareness to your breath. Feeling gentle rise and fall of your chest and belly with each breath. Releasing any obvious tension that you might be feeling. As you settle into your breath and your body, letting go of any thoughts that take you away from where you are right now. Letting go of any thoughts from the past. Letting go of any plans for the future. And allowing yourself to really just be in this moment. Be with your body. Be with your breath. And keeping your awareness in the present moment. Releasing any obvious tension that you might be holding on to. Staying with your even and steady breath. Letting your breath feel natural. Finding a rhythm that feels effortless. Send that breath deeper down into the belly. But as you breathe in, you feel your belly rise, filling up into your sides and then the chest. As you breathe out, feel the belly button pulling down towards the spine as you release the air from your torso, emptying out the lungs completely. Continue breathing in this manner. Long inhales and slow, deep exhales. A couple more breaths just like that. Really filling up your torso with air as you breathe in. Maybe pausing for a moment or two with your lungs full, and slowly releasing all the air from the torso, either through the nose or the mouth, whichever feels better. And just sitting with empty lungs for a couple of counts. And from here, start to move your fingers and toes, reaching the arms up overhead. We're going to bend the knees, bringing your feet together, knees together. Let's bring the hands to the back of your thighs. As you lift the feet up, bring the knees into your chest. We're going to have the hands pressed against the kneecaps and draw circles with your knees, just massaging the back of your sacrum, moving in both directions. Continue to make circles, just pressing your lower back right into the mat. From here, bring your knees to center where it feels neutral, taking the knees apart from here, letting your knees go as far wide as they can, and then bring the hands on the inside of your thighs, reaching towards the ankles. Go ahead and grab hold of your shins, your ankles, your feet, whatever you have access to, and let's bring the soles of the feet to face up towards the sky. And using the strength in your hands, you're pulling the knees closer to the ground beside you. And as you're doing that, look to keep your tailbone pressed down against the mat. So keeping your tailbone rolled down onto the mat, not letting your lower back lift off. And then it start to move side to side. And what we're looking to do here is, as we massage the back of the sacrum and the lower back, we're also looking to create space here. So you're creating space in the pelvis by opening up into the hips, pressing the arms against the inner thighs. As you rock from side to side, continue to breathe. And we'll start to come back towards center. And then bringing your knees together. Let's open the arms into a wide T with your palms facing up. From here, we lower the knees down to the right side. As you lower your knees down, you can take that right hand, place it on top of the left thigh, and just add a little bit of downward pressure, deepening the stretch. And you can continue looking up or towards your left stretched fingers. Noticing here, if the back of your left shoulder is lifting off the mat, try to keep it grounded on the mat as you find your twist. Breathe deep into the twist here. Let's bring awareness into the pelvis once more. If you can, with your mind's eye, visualize where your thigh bone inserts into the pelvis, that ball and socket joint, and see if you can breathe right into that joint. Feeling space being created with every inhale. And feel yourself settling into that space as you exhale. Breathing across the diagonal from your lat muscles down into the obliques, and over into your glutes, into medius muscles in the outer thighs, the IT bands. Breathing into that stretch, using that right hand to pull the knee, stacking your left sit bone over the right while the shoulders stay side by side on the mat. And from here on the next breath in, we're going to lift the knees back to center. And then as you exhale, go ahead and lower the knees down to the other side, placing your left hand on top of the right thigh. And you can shift the gaze back towards the ceiling or towards your right hand. And come back to your breathing here. Notice how this side feels compared to the other side. Really maintaining awareness of how each pose, each movement, each breath impacts the body. Letting your breathing stay full. Feeling your right hip bone stacking over the left, keeping the shoulders supported on the mat. Stay with that steady, even breath. Letting your mind's eye go into the hip socket once more, creating space. And on the next breath in, we're going to lift the knees back to center. And if you do have any stiffness or soreness in the lower back, you might find that the movement here feels a little bit impinged, or any fast movements can hurt. So just take your time going through the transitions. We're going to plant the feet down from here at a hip width distance, knees stacking above the ankles. Let your arms rest beside the body, palms on the mat. Let's touch the heels with the fingers, setting up into bridge alignment, say to Bandhasana. As you push down through your hands and the feet, lift the seat up, extending through your tailbone towards the sky as you roll your shoulders underneath, getting into a little bit of a chest opener as well. You can interlace the fingers together, tucking one pinky in, and push down through the fists. As you lift the chest up into the chin, continue lifting up through the hips, relaxing into the glutes, and pushing down through the feet. Stretching into your front body here, keeping the back of the head and shoulders firmly pressed down against the mat. Keeping lots of space in the lower back, so you're extending your tailbone in the direction of your knees, not letting your lower back arch here. Consciously relaxing the glutes and then lifting the hips up a little bit higher. Again, looking to create space in the pelvis, space in the low back. As when we tighten up the glutes, it tends to seize up and reduce how much space we have. As we release out of the pose here, taking the hands out from underneath, letting your spine come to land on the mat. As your seat comes down, lift the knees into the chest. Bring the hands to your shins, and we're going to curl into a tight ball here. Again, take your time as you find your way into this shape. If your lower back is a little bit sore or tight, you might find this to be a bit more challenging than usual. So listen to your body here. As you come into this rounded back position, if you're comfortable doing so, really wrap the arms around the shins and tuck into a tight ball. Neutralizing the spine after that back bend. And then from here, we bring our spine and shoulders along with the head back down onto the mat. Let the arms rest beside you, palms in the mat, and extend your heels up towards the sky. Let your legs straighten here a little bit so you can feel slight stretch through the back of your thighs. You can bring your hands up to your thighs, and using the strength in your hands, start to pull your thighs towards your chest. And again, not letting your lower back lift off the mat. So I'm consciously rolling my tailbone down onto the mat here, keeping it supported while using the strength in my hands to pull the thighs towards my chest. At the same time, I'm also pushing up through the heels, looking to get a stretch in the backs of my legs. So even though the body looks like it's in a still position, there's not really much happening internally, there's a lot going on. I'm rolling my tailbone down. I'm keeping my back on my shoulders and head pressed into the mat, using the strength in my arms to pull the thighs closer, at the same time pushing up through the heels. So it's dynamic from within. The experience of it is dynamic, while externally it might look to be static. From here, start to bend the knees one more time. We're going to plant the feet down on the mat at mat width distance. Your knees go a little bit wider. We're going to open the arms out into a wide T, and let's windshield wiper the hips from side to side. And paying special attention here to the internal rotation. As you come into that internal rotation, check in with your knee as it comes closer to the ground. Checking in with where you feel the stretch. Just maintaining awareness of your breath and how your body is responding to the movement throughout. Continue moving from side to side, keeping your breath inhaling on the way up, exhaling as you go down. Come back to center. We're going to bring the feet and the knees together and bringing your knees down to one side, whichever side you prefer, planting your hand onto the mat next to you, pushing into the hand and then lifting up slowly off the mat, just being a little bit careful with the transitions. Bringing your knees and feet on the mat, coming into a tabletop with your hands planted on the mat, fingers spread, palms are flat, shoulders over wrists, long spine, hips over knees. Let's have the toes tucked under to start off. We're going to push down into the hands, push into the feet, lift the knees off the mat just a couple of inches, bringing your shins to be parallel to the ground. Feel the low belly pulling up towards the spine as you push into the hands, flatten into your spine, and bring your chin slightly in towards your chest. Long through the back of the head, all the way to your tailbone. Strong through your arms, shoulders, midsection, and the legs, breathing here. Maybe start to feel your leg muscles, your core muscles fatiguing a little bit here. We just want to get those muscles warmed up. On the next exhale, we'll bring the knees down onto the mat. And as you breathe in, begin to arch into the low back, draw the belly down, pull the shoulders away from the ears, looking forward, or maybe looking up. And then as you exhale, tucking your tailbone down towards the mat, rounding through your spine, push the hands into the mat as you bring your chin into the chest. Continue moving with the breath here. Listening to your body. Feel free to add in any movement or variation if that feels good. Maybe a little side to side, maybe using your hips or your shoulders as well. Keeping the movements controlled and connected with your breath. It's a great way to wake up the spine, releasing tension in the low back and the shoulders. And that's coming towards a neutral spine. From here, we take our knees mat width distance apart, bringing the feet together. We're going to bring our forearms down and then start to let your seat go back towards the heels. And then resting your forehead on the mat, coming into child's pose. And let your seat really get heavy here. Opening up through your armpits, letting your chest melt down towards the mat. But again, looking to keep your fingers stretched out in front of you. So we're creating space down the back and into the lower back and looking to lengthen at the same time as you release the hips towards the mat. Looking for that space along the sides, both sides of your spine, the spinal column as we call it. From here, start to spread the fingers, pushing down through your palms, lifting your forehead up, and then driving your chest forward. We're going to lift off the forearms, coming onto your hands. The knees are still on the mat. From here, we're going to turn the eyes of the elbows, the inner part of the elbows, to face forward. And as you exhale, bend the elbows and lower your chest, your belly down onto the mat. Your feet will naturally lift off the mat because your feet are together. Your knees are still mat width distance. So go ahead and find that alignment if you've come out of it. Knees are mat width distance, feet are together. And this might be a little bit painful if you do have any lower back pain at the moment. What we're going to try and do is find some strength in the lower back and the glutes. As often, it's not just about stretching, but also strengthening the body part that might be giving us a little bit of trouble. So to find strength here, what we're going to do is we're going to keep the feet planted together. So keep the feet firmly pressed together. And then using the muscles in your low back and your glutes, you're going to try to lift the knees off the mat. And it might just be a couple of inches. It might not be at all today, and that's okay. What we want to try and do is find the strength, building those connections to lift the knees up and then bringing them back down. Stay with the movement, stay with the breath, listen to your body here. And you're welcome to lift and hold, just to feel the endurance in that muscle, feel the contraction, or you're welcome to lift and lower. Whichever feels better for you, you can try both as well. Let's go ahead and lower the knees down. From here, we're going to let the feet come apart. Your knees are still mat width distance. You can let your hands rest here. You can also just extend the arms beside you with your palms turned up. And we're going to windshield wiper the hips one more time. And just rocking your feet, letting them go from side to side. One of the reasons we do these windshield wiper movements is to make sure that after we do something that strengthens where the muscles contract around the joints, that we then also find some movement so the muscles can stay mobile, the joints can stay mobile, and not just stay locked into that position of strength. So looking to work on flexibility, strength, and mobility all at the same time. Let's bring our legs to be straight here. Let your feet land on the mat. And we're going to bring the inner edges of the feet on the mat. So with your inner edges down, that means your hips are rotated externally. And to lift the legs from here, it's going to require our glute medius muscles to fire. And that's where we're going to try to find strength here. So go ahead and point your toes. And if your legs straight feel too heavy, you can go back to bent knees and do it like we were doing earlier, with your feet together, or if you want, you can have your feet apart. That also makes it slightly more challenging. Think skydiving here. Your glute medius muscles really do a lot of work when you're doing that. Or if you want, for another variation, you can have your legs be straight with your toes pointed. So find what feels best for you. You can have your arms still resting beside you. You can have your hands down on the mat next to you here. It's all good, whichever you prefer. But really just focusing on the low back and the glutes for now, and then trying to lift the legs off the mat. And again, if you want to add some more variation, you can push into the hands, come into a back bend at the same time as you lift your legs. You can also extend the arms beside you, rotate the arm bones externally. So you're in Shalabhasana, locust pose at the same time. But what I'd like you to really focus on is, even if your legs are not lifting, is building those upper neuron connections between the brain and the muscles, where you can start to feel the contraction happen. And the place we want to try and get to is where you can contract the muscle without even really using it, but just using the connection that you have between the brain and the muscle to try and contract the muscle and try to flex it a little bit. As once you start to form that connection, it becomes much easier to isolate those muscles and use them for specific movements. And go ahead and rest your chin on the mat if it's lifted. Bring your feet down as well. And with your knees still mat width distance, bend the knees from here. Let your feet come together. So the inner edges of your feet are together. Bring the hands by the ribs here. Spread the fingers, push into the hands. Now we're going to lift the chest and the belly and the top of the thighs off at the same time. So have your belly button pulled in towards the spine, push into the hands. And just like we came down, we're going to reverse our way back up, lifting. As your feet find the floor, send the seat back, and then let your hips sink down towards the heels, or as close as they can get. Again, looking to stretch out the low back here, creating space, maintaining length in your spine. Maybe pushing down through the hands slightly, driving your seat back. Let's spread into the fingers, press down through the hands, start to rise up from here. Bringing the knees underneath your hips. From here, we drive the right foot forward, coming into a lunge with your fingers together on the right thigh. If you want to take a little bit more space, you can lift the back knee, wiggle that foot back to create some more space for your pelvis to sink down towards the mat so you can get that stretch through the front of your left thigh. Relax into the shoulders, find a steady gaze. We're breathing here. As we work into the hips and the low back, we tend to slow things down and really take our time so we can maximize the space, the stretch, staying with your breath here. You're going to release the left hand down on the inside of your right foot. We're going to come into a twist. As you come into that twist, be mindful of your right knee here. You might find it start to open out to the side. You want to keep it nice and close to the center point of the mat. So you really want to drive down through the inner edge of the foot, keeping that left arm, right leg close to each other as you twist and reach up through the right hand. Or use the bottom hand to help you twist as much as you can here and really creating space across your low back. Keep the spine long as you're twisting. And from here, as you inhale, bringing both hands down on the inside of your right foot. From here, drive your pelvis down and forward and really try to use the strength in your pelvis to bring that hip as close down to the mat as you can. And then from here, easing your way out of the pose, pulling the hands back. We're going to lift up that back foot, pivot on the knee, and then bring the foot behind the knee. Once you're here, right forearm on the right thigh as you rise up. And then we're going to lunge into that front leg one more time. But this time you're going to come into a stretch for the back leg as well. So your back leg before was facing forward. So you were getting into the hip flexor. Now the hip is turned externally. So now we're getting into the inner thigh muscles, the groin area. Again, go into this pose as deep as you feel comfortable. And then we start to push in through that front foot, start to come back. And as you come back, bring your left shoulder, hip, and knee in a straight line. We're going to extend that right leg to the side. You want the toes in line with the left knee, bottom of the foot firmly planted down. The right hand's going to come around the back into a half bind, left arm reaching up. Draw the shoulders down the back, look up to the sky, and coming into a side stretch for your Parigasana. Gate pose, keeping that right foot firmly pressed down to keep that leg active. Lots of space through the side body as you look up to the sky. Breathe here and really reaching through your fingers, pulling the shoulders down the back. And as you inhale, climbing your way out of the pose. This time we lift the front toes off the mat, pivot, and then start to bend into that knee one more time. Bring the hands on the mat for support, picking up the back foot, and then finding our way back.
Awesome. From here, we take the right foot and heel toe it over to the right edge of the mat, pointing your toes out 45 degrees. Left hand in the center. This time we do let the knee open out to the side as you flex the ankle and toes, getting that hip to rotate externally and getting into the outer thigh, the glutes, other areas as well where you might feel the stretch. Keep the back knee on the mat to start off. If you want to, you can lower down onto your forearms. Again, looking to create that space. If that feels a little too far, stay on the hands. If you want to add strength, you can also pick up the back knee off the mat. So lots of variations to choose from. Find what works best for you. The idea here is to allow the pelvis to sink down towards the mat. That's really the stretch that we're going for here. It's nice and easy. As your hip rotates externally, it also starts to pull a little bit on the glute muscles, that then starts to pull a little bit on your lower back muscles. So again, listening to your body as always, and taking your time, settling into the stretch where it feels optimal for you today. And that's something that's important as well, is not just where you are in your practice overall, but where you are in your practice today in this moment. As our bodies experience different things, different times, depending on how much you've slept, depending on what you've done the day before. It's always good to meet your body where it is, as opposed to trying to force yourself to be where you think you are. And I guess that goes for life as well, isn't it? Start to push into the hands as you lift your way back up. We're going to bring the left hand in the center one more time. We're going to find that twist that we did earlier. This time, if you want, you can also pick up the back foot and find a quad stretch and start to pull that heel towards you. Now, there's a few things going on here. We're in a twist. We're also in a hip opener for the right leg, as well as a quad stretch, if that variation is what you're going with for the back leg. So again, stay with your breath, stay with your body. You're really trying to focus on the muscles that are stretching, lengthening. And we start to release our way out of this sequence, coming back, send the hips back, and we come into a tabletop. Okay, we're gonna set up for the same sequence on the other side. Starting at the top, we drive our left foot forward, coming into a lunge. Again, look to have that space between the front foot and the back knee to allow your pelvis to sink down, fingers together on the left thigh, relax the shoulders, steady the gaze, and find your breath.